kind of a man does this stuff? He was a Marxist revolutionary. Did you hear that off the top? He was in an organization that is a listed terror organization. Bearing all that in mind, how did he become head of the World Health Organization?
The TPLF was listed as a terrorist organization by the US government in the 90s, and it's still listed as a terrorist organization in the Global Terror Database.
From this excellent 13-minute mini documentary on ቴድሮስ Adhanom, the leader of the World Health Organization. It's by John Martin, and I will link to this in the description box. There is so much in this little video, but I'm only going to take a few minutes because I only want to concentrate on the things that ቴድሮስ Adhanom did while he was head of Ethiopia's Ministry of Health. It's just mind-boggling, even this little bit, but there's so much more. All right, here you go, a couple minutes for you.
ቴድሮስ, as well as being the first World Health Organization director without a medical degree, also has somewhat of a political background. On his online biography, you can see that he was the Ethiopian health minister from 2002 to 2012. ቴድሮስ also happens to be a member of the Tigray People's Liberation Front. It was founded as a communist revolutionary party that came to power in 1991. The Tigray represent only 6% of the population of Ethiopia. One of the major ethnic groups are the Amhara. The TPLF 1968 manifesto declared the Amhara people to be their eternal enemy. And ቴድሮስ himself hails from the Tigray region and was a senior member of the party when it came to power. Just how senior was he? Well, this Ethiopian newspaper lists him as the third most important member of the Politburo, which gives the impression he was slightly more important than just a medical administrator. The TPLF was listed as a terrorist organization by the US government in the 90s, and it's still listed as a terrorist organization in the Global Terror Database, because it has this unfortunate habit of carrying out armed assaults in rural areas. The Amhara people under the new government have reported systematic discrimination and human rights abuses. Human Rights Watch in 2010 wrote about how aid in the form of food and fertilizer was being withheld from Amhara villages if they had associations with the opposition party. Other forms of aid denial involved refusing emergency health care to children, which was carried out by the same ministry at the time led by ቴድሮስ Adhanom, current director of the WHO. The Amhara People's Union, an activist group based in Washington, issued many other accusations of human rights abuses against the TPLF, including noting that during this time birth rates in the Amhara region was lower than every other region, and that around 2 million Amhara simply disappeared from the population census, which was admitted in Parliament in this video. But not content with denying aid to political dissidents, ቴድሮስ also spent a lot of his time as health minister covering up epidemics in Ethiopia. There was a cholera outbreak that spread through the region in 2007, which infected thousands of people in neighboring countries in East Africa. But when it spread to Ethiopia, the Ministry of Health tactic was to rename the disease AWD, acute watery diarrhea, instead, meaning that on paper, all the neighboring countries had cholera epidemics, but Ethiopia didn't. International organizations were pressured not to call it cholera, even though the UN tested it themselves and found cholera, and were told not to reveal the real number of infected. Another stunning victory for the health minister. Also, the deadly famine that struck Ethiopia in the 1980s, which it's still associated with, is not entirely a thing of the past. The WHO itself, in its reports, after pages and pages of gushing reviews on how great Ethiopia's health sector is, admitted in 2016 that at least 8.6 million people in rural Ethiopia still needed food aid to survive, and said that the situation had barely improved for 4 years, so that after the end of ቴድሮስ's illustrious term as health minister, he could boast a mere 8% of the population that would starve to death without foreign aid. And so, after these shining accomplishments in health, ቴድሮስ moved on to bigger and better things.
Did your jaw fall on the floor? He's practically a genocider. There's so much in there I can't recall. I'm exhausted. I can't recall. But the part about their fertility rates in that one area, I wonder what that was about. Were they perhaps giving them vaccines in that one area? The fact that he basically let them starve to death, the fact that he canceled programs for children's health. I mean, what kind of a man does this stuff? He was a Marxist revolutionary. Did you hear that off the top? He was in an organization that is a listed terror organization. Bearing all that in mind, how did he become head of the World Health Organization? Can you understand how broken a system must be